Hello everyone, this is Bentley and we're back for Tank of the Week, episode 17. Last week, as you'll recall, I started kind of a break from the rainbows in the raising rack and showed you a glimpse into an experiment I had been running with my roommate on some blue dream shrimp. Well, now it's time for the hardcore experiment. We're going to dive into a tank where, if you'll remember, this tank behind me had some kind of orphan cherry shrimp that came with it. Well, we took all of the clearest of clear shrimp out of there, and none of the good reds. Except for later we moved one. Just one. And it was not good red. It was like that clear red that you can see through. You know what I'm talking about if you've kept cherry shrimp. Like the one where you're like, oh yeah, you're kind of red, but I can still see through you. And we moved them into this tank and we decided to see what would happen. Because this tank's got a bunch of Java fern in it. It's really simple. It's got that little box filter from Amazon, which again, I'll have another link to that down below. I've been surprised at how good this little filter is in something like a 10-gallon, a small tank with a small bioload with like shrimp or baby rainbows. Don't try and do this if you're like in a 20-gallon with raising a guppy colony or something like that. Go to a full sponge filter for that. Get something that's got a little bit more surface area. But you know what? For the like like $7 or whatever these things cost, I was really surprised at how effective they are, given that they come with all their media. It's literally just pull it out of the box, put it in your tank, connect an air line, you're done. Kind of impressed. So there's a link down below. Yes, it's an affiliate link. Yes, if you make a purchase through Amazon using that link, I do get a small commission that goes toward the channel. Disclosures out of the way. Disclosure? I can speak English, I promise. Disclosure out of the way. Let's talk about these shrimp. So here's a quick shot into the tank. You're going to notice it's nothing special, kind of like the last one. It's just a simple 10-gallon run bare bottom, and yeah, there's some random detritus in there, but you know what? Shrimp feed off of that stuff all the time. So unless it's excessive, having that little thin layer is okay, especially if you don't have substrate. Normally it'd be kind of in your substrate, but we're going bare bottom on these tanks so we can monitor that stuff and vacuum it up when we need to. And that being me and my roommate. He's been helping out a lot lately. So you'll notice, like, every once in a while you see this bright red shrimp and then a bunch of clear ones. So slowly but surely, as these shrimp breed out, which we're using them long-term to help clean up rainbow eggs when they're in a mop to prevent fungusing, which I talked about that a little bit last week, which, simple thing here, we have found, and we being a lot of rainbow fish breeders, that if you put Neocaridina specifically, most commonly most people use cherry shrimp, but you could use the blues or the yellows, those shrimp will not cannibalize and kill good eggs, but they will help prevent fungus on eggs, which is very, very interesting. So I've heard a lot of feedback from a bunch of other breeders, and the one time I did a small experiment with it, I had some okay luck, so I'm going to give it another go, except in this particular case, we have these pretty subpar cherry shrimp, and no slouch, they're just commonly farm shrimp that you get, and you know, they're probably like a $1 or $2 a shrimp, dirt cheap, but they're not the best color. They're not talking like Sakura grades or painted fire reds or anything like that. We're just going your generic, easy peasy cherry shrimp, and we're not really paying attention to culling them. They get kind of clear. Well, my roommate and I are working on this experiment, and as we get the good reds, we're going to pull them aside and move them to a different tank. Now, we're keeping a few in here to start the first few generations in this tank, the first couple batches of babies, and then we're going to take, like, you'll notice a bright red one as we switch the footage here at the gimbal. That one's going to get moved and go to a different tank, and we're going to slowly pick all the really good red ones and move them to a separate system. So kind of like the blues where we're culling out all the bad ones, in this case we're going to cull the good ones out and create a tank that's all good reds and see if we can slowly breed that good color back into these shrimp in a very simple environment. And at the same time, we're going to use these shrimp to do some work and help make it so that our baby rainbows make it longer, get cleaned up after, and just have an overall healthier system. So, simple, right? Well, the tank beside it is the next experiment. You can see how these kind of start out. This one's just got some water sprite, or I think this is water wisteria. I'm sorry, it's water wisteria. And there's that box filter. Really simple. Yeah, as they start to build their bacteria load, they look kind of ugly. Whatever. They're super functional, and that's the impressive thing. They're also very easy to clean. You can literally just pull the top off, empty things out. If you want to fill this with nothing but filter floss or sponges, you could, instead of kind of that gravelly media that they include. But I wanted to try them just out of the box to see how well they do without any modifications whatsoever, so that if somebody wanted to buy them straight up, they would know how they work. And like I said, been very surprised with how well they perform in a low bio load. So this middle tank is eventually going to be yellow Neocaridina. You know that I have some yellows that are in the shallow tank in the display room. Well, the shallow tank hasn't been doing all that well. We've noticed some problems kind of long term as I've worked on it, and part of that is just like to do something in that kind of size system with the way it's designed. CO2 probably would have been helpful, but I purposely tried to do no CO2 for a while, and I've been so busy that I've been bad at a few things, which has caused some catastrophic losses of plants, but not necessarily shrimp. However, those shrimp aren't doing the best in that like super shallow, easy to get out of tank, so we're going to move them into this 10. I have, I think, 3 females and 1 male, so here's to hoping those yellow Neos, which are pretty nice, will breed and give me a bunch of yellow babies up in this tank, and do similar to these cherries and these blues, where we've just seen this kind of explosion of babies in a very short time, which shrimp will do that, yeah, but in a tank that's not really that long-term set up. So we've been feeding them very regularly, using things like the ZooMed banquet blocks, Shrimp King food. There's some other stuff that we're testing that until I've tested it enough, I don't want to talk about quite yet. But so far, initial results look very positive, so that's a plus. But we'll talk about that more like once I've had another couple months to really work with this stuff and really know what's going on. But that's kind of it. I mean, this is a really simple look. Just kind of an experiment that my roommate and I did on a whim, and it's turned out really well, actually. We're very surprised with the results, which is making us want to keep doing it. And as some of those rainbow tanks down below get emptied from the larger adult rainbows from the batch of Gary Lang's rainbows that I got at first, as those fish move into bigger systems, we're going to start filling those tanks with different versions of these shrimp, kind of monitoring what they do and using them to help us raise future generations of rainbows. Now, a couple of those tanks are going to have some adults, and those adults are going to be there to breed so that we can move mops to the other tanks. But long term, we'll have a few of these tanks going, and we'll start cranking out some rainbows here. I'm hoping that a couple of issues I've seen with Bob's Bozemonite, not the fish, Bob's fish are doing fine, but some issues I've had with the fry, where they're not living past kind of the 2 weeks in the way I've been doing them. So I'm hoping moving them to these larger systems and that let me more accurately do longer sustained food. So live culture, like the vinegar eels don't work really well on those rings. So getting vinegar eels into a system like that, or infusoria or green water, I'm actually going to try and build a green water culture here relatively soon. I got to do some things around my house first. Mostly where we're making space to put the testing lab up and get that going. I'm going to have a little extra space for a side tank to just be on 24/7 and make green water, and hopefully that green water can help act as a food source for baby rainbows and get our fry success rates much higher. So some random stuff at the end of this video in Tank of the Week, talking about a couple of different projects, because these little kind of science experiments, if you will, are spawned by ideas like that. And then long term, they turn into something kind of interesting, which is a lot of what I do in this hobby. So hopefully you guys enjoy this short ramble about the way that my brain works for trying to do things in the hobby, and how my roommate has been helping, because he gets some of these like harebrained schemes too, and we get surprised at how successful some of them are. And then once we have got good documented results, we like sharing them with you guys, because it gives you an opportunity to maybe learn from our crazy success, where something we don't think is going to work actually works. And then the more we work at it, we realize, like, no, this actually is pretty efficient and effective. We're very surprised, and share it with you guys, because maybe it'll give you an idea, or in the comments. I love hearing from you guys. You know, what kind of crazy experiment have you done and you were surprised at how successful, or something you thought was completely surefire that didn't work very well. Maybe like you saw YouTuber X doing something, and then in your water it just doesn't work at all. And it might be, Bentley, I learned something from you, and your stupid Seattle water's too soft, and I tried to do it in my liquid rock in Ohio, and it doesn't work. Not calling out Ohio specifically, just in the Midwest, where the water's a lot harder. Chicago, all that kind of stuff. Great cities. I'm really hoping to go to Chicago Aquashella next year. I'm just putting that out there. But I'd love to know in the comments from you guys, like, have you done an experiment that's worked out like this, or maybe you tried someone else's thing and it didn't have much success, and you learned a lesson from it? That's the important thing. What did you learn from that? I would love to hear that in the comments down below. If you appreciate videos like this, where I ramble like a crazy person, by all means, please give me a thumbs up. It helps with the magical YouTube algorithm. And if you didn't like this stuff because I'm not on point, I don't have a perfect script, and I'm not jump cutting everything out, you can go ahead and hit the thumbs down button twice. I'll understand. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Shoot me a little subscribe if you enjoyed this stuff, and stay awesome.